It was one of the standout tech performers during 2019, but just how much is left in the trend for Microsoft? Hello, I'm David Jones. I've been a technical analyst in financial markets for almost 25 years, and this is our YouTube channel dedicated to US stocks. I thought we'd take a look at Microsoft this time round. It was a great performer during 2019, and so far this year, when we're 6 weeks into it, the share price has already risen by around about 15%. So in this video, we'll catch up with some of the recent moves. I'll come back, talk about what's driving it in a bit more detail. Then we'll go back onto the charts, look at things in a bit more depth and see where the opportunity might be. As usual, if you're watching this and you haven't subscribed, if you can click on subscribe, support the channel, and we'll continue to push out at least a couple of videos every week on US stocks through 2020. First of all, let's catch up with what's been happening with the Microsoft share price. So let's take a look at these Microsoft shares. So since 2019, the share price was around about $100 a share. And you can see just at the time of recording, pushed up briefly above 190. Incredible rise, still going strong into 2020. So let's talk about the reasons a bit more and come back and look at this one in a lot more detail and see maybe where the opportunity is, particularly if we get some sort of market slide from these levels. We'll go back and look at that in a lot more detail in a second. But since the beginning of 2019, the price is up by around about 80% in less than 14 months. For the year to date, at the time of recording, the price is up by more than 15%. We're seeing a great trend, all-time highs set on a regular basis. But there is some meat behind this as well. You know, we did have the Microsoft results out in January, second quarter results. The market was expecting $1.32 a share in terms of earnings. It came in and it beat that, and it beat that by quite a bit. You know, for an established company, it came in at $1.51. So again, that's obviously something that pleases investors. There's a lot of focus on what goes on in the cloud these days. Of course, Microsoft has its commercial cloud structure called Azure. Investors are impressed by the growth here. It's the second largest cloud infrastructure behind Amazon's web services, and it's actually growing faster on the face of it than Amazon's business. So let's take a look at some of the big levels to watch for Microsoft, the big resistance, the big support, then we'll jump back on the chart. So because we're at all-time highs, the most obvious immediate barrier is the latest all-time high. That's at $191 a share. After that, we're really looking at psychological levels. So $200 a share is an obvious one. And then I've come up, in terms of a next target, I've been looking at around about $235 a share. We'll go back onto the chart and look at the reasons for this. When it comes to support, again, I think because we're in such a strong uptrend, this is where it could be a bit more interesting if we do get a sell-off. So just over the last 6 weeks or so, we've got some good interim support levels running from around about $146 a share at the end of 2019 through to $169 a share more recently. But let's put some color on these numbers. Let's jump back on the platform, take a look at these in a bit more detail. So let's take a look at the bigger picture here. We go back to, June 2016, really, the start of the run in Microsoft from about $50 a share. But you can see since 2019, the price has really accelerated. So let's just pick up on the last 12, 13 months or so. So this is where we are on Microsoft. So we are a year, just over a year actually, into this. Started December 2018, so that big sell-off for stock markets into the last quarter of 2018, and the price has just really soared since then. So all-time highs up around about 190 recently, and we've got that trend coming in around about the 150 mark. So let's look at the levels if this does start to sell off. I think we've got lots of short-term levels all the way back down from around about those lows, 31st of Jan lows, around about 169. Then after that, we've only got to go back a few days, 27th of Jan lows coming in about 160. And then I think the really big one, probably back here, early December, 146, also ties up with this whole trend line area. So at the moment, Microsoft can definitely take some sort of weakness from here and still not change that overall trend. Clearly, it's got pretty overextended. If we look at the RSI down here, I think this is one of the problems with the RSI is that we go to an extreme, really quickly. It's been pretty extreme since, the 13th of November, because this move has been so strong. So we're not getting too much out of that, to be honest. if we pick up on what the moving average has done since October, so we're 4 months into this now, it's done a pretty good job all the way up of providing a support. Whenever we've seen the price dip below, there hasn't been, it hasn't really held there for that long. We've seen the price turn around and rally back up. So for my money, any weakness still looks to be a buying opportunity. It's just a question of where you put your stop. So I think maybe the bigger opportunity would be if we came back into this 150, 160 area. We've got the old lows from back here at 146. We've got the breakout highs at around about 140. So lots of support sort of backing into that 150 area. And I suppose if we're looking for targets, we've got to really just come up with almost a measured move. If we take this move when the latest surge started from maybe the third week of October, the market moved, $50. So projecting up from where we are now, I think 235, if we see this trend continue, 235 doesn't seem massively over-optimistic. Maybe we won't get there as quickly as it did the last $50, but overall, I think any weakness in the Microsoft share price, assuming this whole 140 to 150 area holds, still looks strong. We could do with the RSI unwinding out of this overbought area, but all still positive, and you can't really argue with that trend. So it is well overdue a correction, but plenty of support levels if we did see it sell off. We'll come back and see how it's doing, but for this update, we'll leave things there. So from me, David Jones, good luck with your investing and trading.